Has 35 years of retail pharmacy experience and walked away from conventional medicine after watching chronic disease get managed instead of fixed. Today, he's here to share insights on remote monitoring using wearable sensors and smart devices. Please welcome Dr. Kyle Rootsaert. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. This is good
Well,
stuff.
people would say you're crazy. 35 years of experience, walking away
Yeah.
from conventional medicine. What did you see in that 35 years?
Well, I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid. I you know, the information wasn't there, at least for me, and wasn't. If I wanted to go look for it, I would have to. It would be difficult to dig. But with the advent of, say, YouTube and the information that's available, um, it became a little bit more obvious. And it was actually, the algorithm. I'm grateful for this because it sent me down the right path. And what I used as a rule of thumb was anything that I looked at, medical lectures, anything that had a conflict of interest that I didn't feel comfortable with, I discarded it. I just moved on. So I really honed in on conflicts. If you wrote a book, it's a different story. To me, it's like, okay, you're trying. You're not making a lot of money off of books anyways, but this is theory. Let me read your book. What's it all about? Right. And so in 2015, there was an amazing TED talk by Sarah Hallberg, Dr. Sarah Hallberg, and she was one of the founders of Verta Health. And this is 2015, and she's like, ignore the guidelines. I'm like, what is she talking about? Because I know the ADA guidelines, American Diabetes Association guidelines, is the Bible. That is what you follow. That's the recommendation. That's what we do. That's how you eat. If you're a diabetic, or like what I turned into was a diabetes educator. Like I knew that stuff. That was the Bible. I taught it. I was all about it. And when she said that, I was like, wait, what is she talking about? Let me do a little bit of digging. So I went through the panel, like, who are these people and how much are they getting paid? And it, the problem with these conflicts and the amount of money that I found was like $750,000 amongst these panel guideline committee members. I said, how can I possibly figure out how did that affect your decision and your recommendation for the world? I mean, you're going to say, yeah, I disclosed it. Where did you disclose it? It wasn't front and center. It's never front and center. Disclosures are never like, here, read this before you hear anything that is about to follow over the next whatever. So that's how it should be, right? So here we are with essentially, I've got these conflicts of interest. I'm teaching the guidelines. This is where I found it at Open Payments. And in there is the IRS, it's the tax transactions for that particular physician. So you can look each physician up. And I would encourage anybody and everybody to go do your homework and go to Open Payments and figure out how much this doctor got paid. So if you were to do that and go back and look at old medical science and look through those studies, you would see the conflicts. You would see how the money was exchanged, or at least you'd have a really good idea. It doesn't go back further than I want to say 2015. You can only go back so far when they started capturing these receipts. So that's when I was like, okay, I can't do this. This doesn't seem right. This is all about insulin. This is type 2 diabetes. This doesn't make sense. I have Jason Fung. I have Robert. Everyone's telling me that type 2 diabetes is this insulin resistance problem, and nobody's calling it out for what it is, and that is it's a high insulin level. If you had a thyroid condition and it was a high thyroid condition, we would call it hyperthyroid. If metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance is hyperinsulinemia, why aren't we measuring the insulin level? Why don't we call it for what it is? And in thyroid, you get a thyroid level, and
Mhm.
why not in metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance syndrome, or whatever you want to call it? I don't care what you want to call this. Why aren't you measuring your fasting insulin levels? This doesn't make sense. What we will find is not that the insulin levels are low, is that the insulin levels are actually very high. This condition of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. It's hyperinsulinemia. And we're told not to measure it. It's not covered by your insurance. Your doctor, they won't agree on what the ranges are. They won't agree on the assay. This has been going on for how long? If metabolic syndrome is insulin resistance syndrome, if we measured now and we couldn't agree on whatever, is it going up or down? I don't care. If I got 2 points, at least I can draw a line. Is it getting worse or is it getting better? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we measuring this? Why aren't we measuring insulin? And that's when I was like, okay, I gotta call the kettle black. This is crazy because this is out of control. Normal range is less than 5. Let's put it this way. 93% of your population is not less than 5. Above 5. That's the difference from one person to another. Like, how much insulin resistance do you have? And when you go on stuff like Google, you're going to see this nonsense. You're going to see like metabolic syndrome is caused by genetics, caused by obesity. Like, no. So if people knew that the majority of our population has this insulin resistance problem, you would want to measure insulin. But what can you do instead? Let's measure glucose, because glucose is kind of a proxy for insulin. So right now we measure and we use as a guideline a hemoglobin A1C, which is a 3-month average. It tells you approximately what your blood sugar has been averaging over the last 3 months. And then you look at a red blood cell and see how many scratches on it, basically, and go, okay, your average blood sugar is X. All right. Type 2 diabetes is when your blood sugar has been elevated for a while. But by the time your blood sugar is elevated, your insulin level was going up years prior. This isn't just diabetes. This is cardiovascular disease. This is neurodegenerative disorder. This is where this type 3 diabetes comes in. What's the correlation between colorectal cancer and insulin resistance? Breast cancer and insulin resistance. This $10 test is like the little secret. So why do we have this massive secret? Why does the ADA creating this confusion over this very, very important fat storage hormone, insulin? You're taking money from who? You're taking money from the manufacturers of insulin. You're taking money from Sanofi, Pfizer, Wyeth, right? You're taking money from all the insulin manufacturers. You're taking money from all the drug companies. You're taking money from all the food companies. Why do we listen to them? This makes no sense. This isn't about health. So back in 2015, when she said that, I started like, of course I followed her. I followed her like crazy. I followed everything. I absorbed everything on low carb and ketogenic diet and set up a support group for my diabetic patients. And wow, that worked. And we were doing finger sticks at that time. We were checking blood sugars around a meal, which meant that you were pricking yourself 3 times around a meal. But my patients were doing well. They were doing very well. They were reversing their diabetes. They were losing weight. Their triglycerides were reducing. Their HDL blood pressure they were getting healthy under this ketogenic diet. And then in 2015, Sarah Hallberg creates this Virta Health, and what you have is the biggest amount of evidence you could ever compile that everybody just completely ignored. It should have been like front page news. Virta Health publishes their study, and at 1 and 2 years, 54% of their patients had reversed their diabetes. Half. Pretty good. And that's not a shot. That's just information. Patients in Indiana, coaches in San Francisco, communicating, texting, calling them, talking to them, right? Teaching them, right? It was about education. It's about learning. These coaches were teaching them what was happening with their blood sugar in real time, in the moment, teaching them the lessons that you need to learn, going, this food has this effect on me. This food, because of its refinement, jacks my blood sugar up 100 points. And then it drops like a rock. And now my blood sugar is super low. People will start at 90, go to 200, and finish 2 hours later at 50. No wonder you want to snack. When you see that, you can't unsee it. When you see that, you go, okay, I'm going to make a different choice. Let's see. Let me try something different. I don't know. Experiment. So that is what I've done. Is during COVID, CGMs became available, and these tiny little things, they're measuring glucose every 5 minutes.
These are the things people stick on the back of their arm?
Yeah, these sensors, this tool it's a lifesaver. I mean, it's obvious from that study. I mean, there's no drug. Nothing compares to that VertaHealth study when it comes to disease reversal. We should have went, wow, let's do that. Everybody copy that. That's exactly what I've done. How can I mimic that? How can I remotely monitor patients with CGMs? And that's when COVID came, and that's what I did. I had a diabetes clinic, and I was working with patients one-on-one. I'm like, I can't do this at scale, but holy crap, this is cool. This is so cool. Blood pressure's dropping. Triglycerides are dropping in half. Everybody's losing weight. Diabetes, it's reversal time. These people, they're going from well into diabetes range, like blood sugar of 300, dropping it down to 100. That is such a significant drop just by knowing what their blood sugar is every 5 minutes. I'm wearing one now. I can scan it, and it will give me a number with direction. It'll say 120 and you're going up. Like, okay, well, all right, considering what I mean, you can learn what rice does. You can learn what and everybody's different. And I encourage everybody to get one of these on and see what your blood sugar is doing, because in reality, these spikes, this is damage. This is oxidative stress. This hyperglycemia is what causes this advanced glycated end products. This is gumming up our machinery, sticky proteins that we don't need, right? If we can control this spike, this fluctuation in blood sugar, we can see disease disappear and people start losing weight and get healthy. That is a metric, and that's variability. That's your blood sugar variability. That metric is really important. I hone in on that a lot, because when someone's out of control, that number's all over the place. And if you want to take dietary guidelines and you want to apply this to everybody, I think it's through that metric. It's glucose variability. I don't care what you eat. I don't care what your lifestyle is, but get your blood sugar to not fluctuate so much. Get that glucose variability down to, say, less than 15%. Most people are on a roller coaster ride. Their blood sugar is fluctuating all day, and their glucose variability is 25, 30%. It's huge. Their numbers, and no wonder they feel great, and then they crash. You feel great, and that's why we're snacking. So this is where I feel like if you knew this, maybe we could give ourselves a little bit of grace, a little bit of a break, and go, hey, this isn't necessarily my lack of willpower. This is my biology working against me. This is not something I really have control over. And to be quite honest, we've all been duped, and it sucks when you feel like that you've been duped this whole time, and you think, man, I should have caught that. Oh, I wish I would have seen that earlier. It's like, if we could, no, there's no time like the present to see this. I think, to me, it's like the biggest secret in medicine, because when I start thinking about the harm and the destruction, or really over this lie about insulin, and telling us that it's not an important hormone to measure, when in reality it is. It's your metabolic function, essentially. What's your metabolism? What's your metabolic state? Like, and if you're not going to measure insulin, then why don't you measure ketones instead? Because typically man should be in a significant amount of their life in a state of ketosis, and that means that your ketone levels are above 0.5. In other words, you have these little pieces of fat, these ketones, and they are essentially little bits of fat tiny little 4-carbon little things of fat. So they're little byproducts of fat that we thought forever in medicine were dangerous. We're like, ketones, diabetic ketoacidosis, it'll kill you. Type 1 diabetic, you're dead. Ketones are bad. These are toxic metabolites of fat metabolism. It's like, no, actually what we're going to find over the next, decade is that these things are like incredibly helpful. They're an important part of our immune system. They're an important part of our mitochondrial function. They're an important part of our brain energy. They help with our muscles. They they do so much signaling. They're just not just these tiny little what we thought was a problematic fat byproduct, but rather I think we're going to find that it's really kind of the super fuel for the brain. We're going to find that this is really what we're designed to be burning. So if you can get yourself into a level of ketosis, fantastic. However, if you can't get yourself, so I recommend drawing ketone. This is what the Verta Health study did. They used the CGMs, but these aren't cheap. This is 2 weeks worth, and this will cost you $50 US. This is not cheap stuff. So you wear this for your experimentation. You wear this to find out after you've done all your carbohydrate detective work, because you're trying to do a very low carb diet. You're trying to get less than 40, less than 25. You're trying to reduce those carbs, right? And when you reduce those carbs and you go a period of time without eating, your insulin level will get low. And when your insulin gets low, you're in a state of fat burning. And so these little pieces of fat byproducts, ketones, these ketones become measurable and you can see them in your bloodstream. And if you have a blood glucose spike from whatever the heck it is, it can kick you out of ketosis. I mean, you're going to spend, let's say a crappy night's sleep will kick you out of ketosis in the morning. Even though you're eating perfectly, you're being really careful, right? Stressful night, a hot night, a horrible sleep experience, you drank, whatever. It's going to change the next day's chemistry. And you won't be in a state of ketosis. But the question will be, what kicked me out? I don't know. Was it the food? Or was it the fact that you had sleep apnea and you were fighting for air all night long? This is common, and kind of like a third of our US population has it. And like 90% of them don't know they have it. Somebody says, oh, you snore. Well, what does that mean? How bad is it? Right? How much is it affecting your sleep and your recovery and your oxygenation overnight? That's why you use these rings, and these rings will tell you your oxygen overnight. Did it dip down? And if you are starving for oxygen all night long, you're increasing the stress hormone cortisol, which is raising blood sugar. Maybe the fact that you have an elevated blood sugar in the morning is related to the fact that you're starving for air all night. Maybe you need a sleep study, get a CPAP machine on you. Now you can breathe better. You can recover better. You're not starving for air. You don't have migraines anymore. You're not grabbing for all kinds of treats and highly caloric, high carb meals in the morning because your cortisol level isn't so elevated anymore. And your blood sugar doesn't start the day at 120, starts the day at 100. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, where it's like the data and the metrics help guide your choices when it came to your own health. My sole purpose is to educate people in that process. I got an 85-year-old mother-in-law, and she's like, I don't feel very good. I'm like, well, what does that mean? She's a 2.5 hour drive. Like, my heart's heavy and one thing. She's got a pacemaker and she's outside sometimes. I have no idea, right? But I got a ring on her, man. So I gotta know what's going on. And we've talked so much about glucose and heart rate variability and what her heart rate looks versus other people's, because she has a pacemaker and she's going on and on. But anyways, she knew that when she wasn't feeling well, to go in and check her blood pressure. She checked her heart rate variability. She went and checked her heart rate. Her heart rate normally doesn't go below 70 because she's paced. but it was kicking up. It was going 140, 138. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, she's like, well, I was outside in the yard. I'm like, well, yeah, you were pushing yourself. Good job. You're okay. You're in recovery mode. You probably need some fluids. You need to get hydrated. But do you see where, like, if she would have just said, I don't feel very well, and I would have said, okay, well, are we going to the emergency room? Right. It's totally
like you said, what does it mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? Like, I don't feel well. Well, how
Where's
bad?
the data?
Well, on a scale, like a lot of people don't even go on a scale of 1 to 10, right? On 1 to 10,
it's like the sleep, isn't it? How do you know your snoring's bad? Well, it's not as bad as my wife's.
Well, yeah, okay, but okay, so fine. Listen,
it's a tough one to measure, isn't it? Like, where's the data? Like, there's a lot of involved in opinion. It's like I say to people, "Are you a good driver? You drive a car. Are you a good driver? I'm a good driver. Okay, good. How do you know you're a good driver? Well, I haven't had an accident. Okay, so you haven't had an accident. That's how you know you're a good driver. Has anybody come and knocked on your door and said, I want to learn how to drive? Then they're, oh, no, that hasn't happened. Well, how old are you? Oh, I'm 50. Okay. When did you get your last driving lesson? Oh, when I was 17. So it's been 33 years and you haven't had a driving lesson?
Yeah.
An athlete trains every day. So you're telling me you're a good driver? Where's your data?
Right. I like to bring the receipts. I think that's important when people make claims about stuff. Yeah, that's fine. That's awesome. It does this, it does that. And when I eat this and when I do like this, I always have these results. I know it's doing. I know what my food's doing, and like, there's just no way unless you've won a CGM. You cannot get. I just don't think you should get through life without at least seeing this for 2 weeks. I think this should be mandatory, because this would point out that all of our subsidized crops, all of our foods are highly, highly processed carbohydrates that are they are significantly toxic to human life, and they really, man has really never seen these glucose levels. This is so manufactured. It's so technologically advanced. The fruit juice, the amount that you think about sugar by itself it exists with fiber, right? It has a way of, it's kind of like it's its own antidote. You can never overdose on it, because you either have diarrhea, right? Because you can't eat that much stinking fiber, right? But your blood sugar is only going to go so high because of the fiber. It doesn't get absorbed. Fiber acts as a barrier of absorption. And that really, eating would have been the most you would have, manufactured in your mouth, some sort of sugar.
Yeah, here in Taiwan, you can go down the street and you can buy a litre bottle of orange juice. In the past, you would have never have drank a litre straight, but people smash a litre bottle of orange juice like they would water. It doesn't happen. My dad used to grow citrus, and so you'd have to go down to the farm, you'd have to pick the orange, you'd have to bring it, you'd have to slice it up, you'd have to squeeze it.
Yeah.
And there's no way your mum would have let you
eat?
Well, your mum wouldn't
2?
have let you eat 30 oranges.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had fruit trees in our backyard. I would always get carried away because it was so good. It was self-limiting. But what I'm saying is, man's never seen these huge spikes. Matter of fact,
they're seasonal fruits. It's not natural. Seasonal fruits.
Right.
It grows
all
each
the
season.
crops.
It's not every day of the week. Not every day.
Right. So here's the thing.
Normal.
All carbs come from plants. Every single one of them has plant origin to it. They are all seasonal. So that would mean that technology would need to be necessary in order to refine it, process it, refrigerate it, transport it, all that good stuff. It seems like we're living in an age of excess that's finally catching up to us, as I see it. And I feel like it's really technology that's going to get us out of there, is knowing you can tell me all about how healthy this is and that is, but prove it to me. Like, I think what we're going to find with these sensors is, when we say prove it, I want to reverse engineer an event. Like, okay, hey, this person had this horrific event. Let's backtrack and look at the patterns of their data, like billions and billions of data points, and start looking for trends.
Mm.
What sent this guy on this trajectory, right? What happened here? And then let's go. What different types of people are there? And let's put them in the different groups based on their like metabolic phenotype. How you respond, how I respond, how anybody else responds is going to be completely different. If we had kind of like these digital models of these people, and we kind of had an understanding, like, okay, well, this is what this person reacts to this kind of stuff. So their liver is in this shape, and like you can almost kind of predict what response they would have to the medication ahead of time. You could see what intervention was going to work best for that particular person given their defect, right? Does this person have metabolic defect because of their muscle problem? Or is this a liver problem? Or is this a fat cell problem? Or, is this a pancreas problem? Like, we don't do anything. We just measure the 3-month average. That's where we are, like a 3-month average. And I have millions of data points like every 5 minutes. Just think about the trending and the amount of AI that's needed to process this and look and find trends. But what I love about the AI is that it can guide you and go, okay, last time this happened, this is what you went for a walk. Last time you had a bagel, your blood sugar skyrocketed. And when you go for a walk, it levels off that blood sugar. So you don't have a 50 point spike. You only have a 20-point spike. Okay, we're going for a walk. Boom, start walking. Hey, it works. Now, imagine this. I hope that your country follows. And I think you guys will. And that is this simple. You got to incentivize healthcare. Okay, so how are we going to incentivize healthcare in the United States? So what we're going to be doing under this new access program,
you got to give them French fries if they get the vaccination.
Oh, gosh, no, seriously, RFK is making a difference, and we're getting somewhere. There's some incentives now for outcomes, value-based care. Right now, our system is it's fee for service. More diagnosis, more codes we can build, more procedures, more referrals. It's coding, billing, money. And it's all based off of basically managing your disease, right? It's managing your decline. Yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrific. And it costs us a fortune. The Americans, we get so
Someone's getting rich.
What?
Someone's getting rich.
Somebody, yeah, but that's the problem. It's not enough people getting rich.
Yeah, the wrong people.
The wrong people are definitely getting rich off of this for sure. But
when I grew up in the 80s, I had one cousin who had diabetes, and I got hundreds of cousins. One person had diabetes, but now people wear it like a badge of honor. Oh, did you hear such and such has got diabetes? I have diabetes, and I'm looking at these people going, how is it possible with all the abundance that you end up with diabetes? Yeah. And it's so obvious. Now, talking about the healthcare, here in Taiwan, the younger generation, my daughter's generation, they're all overweight. But nobody's questioning what they're putting in their mouth.
Yeah.
Nobody's questioning it. They're dealing with the individual, but they're not dealing with.
Yeah. I don't. It's frustrating to me. They're all victims, though.
In Taiwan, there's a drink called bubble tea, and it's got tapioca in it. And it was something that you would have had as a reward, like once a month. In my wife's generation, you would have had bubble tea every now and then. But it's become every day, twice a day type thing for breakfast, after school. But nobody's questioning it.
Yeah. So the ultimate question. So you're onto it, but you have to understand what's the U.S. #1 crop, a subsidized crop. What do you think that is?
It have to be corn, is it?
Corn. How are you getting the sugar? How are you getting your high fructose corn syrup? Right? Pennies. Corn is like cheap. There's so much of it. We mash it up and we make gasoline out of it, basically. So much corn. We can sweeten the world 7 times over, right?
Are you allowed to question that? Are you allowed to talk against that?
Well, I
Like you
think
were
we
asking
should. I
questions about the money 10, 15 years ago. Follow the
Yeah,
money.
the sugar industry. Yeah, that is a dark past for the United States. But I kind of, what really turned me on all of that is the fructose metabolism. I'm a biochemistry nerd, and I looked at that and went, wait a minute, this is all bad stuff that this thing makes. Sugar, fructose in big doses is wicked. I mean, it's like increases uric acid. That's like for gout and hypertension, high blood pressure. It increases insulin resistance. It's making your insulin level. But here's the thing: on the CGM, you only see half of it. You don't see fructose. I would love a fructose sensor. That'd be awesome. This is glucose only. So sugar, which is a disaccharide, is fructose and glucose together, bound. So you only see half of the evil twin. You only see the glucose part, which is just sticky. It's not sweet. The fructose is the sweet stuff. But the problem is, anytime something sweet hits your tongue, stimulates the release of insulin. Boom. Your body says, food's coming, carbs are coming, sweetness is coming. Here it comes. Let's get ready. Let's pump up the insulin concentration because, we know what he did yesterday. Here comes the muffin, right? And so it's ready to pounce on that glucose. The body, it has to whisk it away so rapidly because it's toxic. Glucose is like toxic to the body. And if you want to consider this way, I got 2 things for you here. Glucose is energy only. It's energy only. You can make glucose from other substrates within the body. You will never get low. No matter what, I don't care. As long as you have a functioning pancreas, you're fine. Your blood glucose level will not get low. Mine gets low. It gets low. I don't die though. Okay, because I'm burning ketones from my backup energy supply. It's wonderful. But the CGM will show the big spike. You will see that. And then you will see this massive drop, right? You will see the massive amount of toxicity. And I talked about reactive oxygen species, ROS, oxidative stress, inflammation. You've talked about that. Glucose, when you burn carbs for energy, it increases that. Because if you think about carbohydrates or glucose, it's C6H12O6. For every carbon, there's an oxygen. Fat is not like that. You have a whole lot of carbons and not a lot of oxygen. Your glucose molecule, because of its nature, creates on its own a lot of oxygen toxicity. It is harder for the body to metabolize and burn carbohydrates. There is more CO2 gas that is given off. And if I had a cell in front of us and I said, here's the structure of a cell, glucose is not structure. It is energy only, and the amount of carbs that you need to sustain your life is 0. You will make glucose from lactate. You'll make glucose from a triglyceride, a glycerol backbone of a triglyceride. You'll never get low. Don't ever worry about it. You will have energy for days. You're just when you lower your carbohydrate intake, your insulin levels start to drop and you start to burn fat more efficiently because of that effect of, instead of having insulin shutting the barn door on fat and energy inside of a cell, when insulin goes away, that fat cell can open up and allow the contents to be finely burnt. That is what insulin does. And insulin goes up when we eat carbohydrates. Stay away from the carbs and your glucose levels won't go up. If your glucose levels won't go up, your insulin level won't go up. And if your insulin levels won't go up, you won't be in fat storage mode. You will be in the opposite. You will be in fat burning mode. That's what the intermittent fasting is all about. That's what the low carb ketogenic diet is all about. And it works. And not in just like certain types of people. Like it works in everybody. It works in It's
I
amazing.
started on a keto diet about 4 weeks ago, and I'd
Was
had
that?
keto diets before. I started on a keto diet about 4 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I was eating spaghetti bolognese one day with the kids, and I went for the first bowl, and I had the second bowl, and I had the third bowl, and I put more cheese on it. And I said to my wife, I said, "I got to get off carbs. They're too good. They're too addictive. I want more, and I can't stop eating them." So the
Yeah.
next day, I got onto a keto diet, and it was just very simple. For me, it was pork or chicken for breakfast and some sweet potato. That was it. Lunch and breakfast and lunch, I had the same thing, and then at night time, I'd just have soup with vegetables. That was it. Pretty basic, and we eat early. So 6 o'clock in the morning, eat 12 noon, eat 5 p.m. eat. Food's all done in the belly by 6.
Wow.
Very routine. And what I found was in the first 2 weeks on the keto diet, I dropped 5 kilos. And it was like all the inflammation, all the swelling had dropped out of the body. It was like the puffiness in the body had disappeared. And so I stopped drinking dairy. My bowels got better. I stopped the sugary drinks. My sleep got better. I stopped the floury foods. My stomach went flat. And it was amazing just by getting those 3 poisons out of the body: sugar, salt, and flour. The body started to dump whatever was in there, all the toxicity, 5 kilos. But the depth of sleep is incredible. Last night, I went to bed at 10, woke up at 6.
Yeah.
I hopped up to go to the bathroom a couple of times, but that's because I was drinking a lot of water before I went to bed. But other than that, it was deep sleep. The sleep transformed by the second week.
Mm.
And there's nothing that I've put in there that I crave. I have 2 bits of pork chop in the morning, and after the first pork chop, like this big, I'm struggling to get the second one in there. I'm thinking, this is amazing, because I could have had 4 pieces of bread with peanut butter. I could have had a protein shake with a banana and some blueberries,
Get that potassium in there.
get it all in there. But now it's 1 pork chop and I'm full.
Yeah.
But I say, okay, I've got to eat the second one. But by lunchtime, I have another 2. But I feel fantastic. The
Yeah.
dark circles have come out from under the eyes. The bowels are better. It's such a quick
Okay.
transformation.
Okay. I love this. This in itself is like a testimonial, right? This is cool.
S-
You did keto. I would say a few things. Keto, like everybody tells me that they do keto. I think measuring keto is important. So measuring ketones in the morning is critical. You lost a bunch of water weight.
Mhm.
When you eat carbs, like I said, insulin goes up. Well, insulin goes up for another reason. It causes your kidneys to hold on to sodium and water. Okay. Because when you put the carbs away, you got to put it away with water.
Okay.
There's like
makes
3
sense.
times the weight of water in comparison to the carbohydrates. So
Mhm.
carbs come with the big water like sphere with it. Okay.
Mhm.
So when you dumped the carbs because you
Yeah,
didn't replace
swole.
them, it just dumped. You just peed it all off. You got rid of all that water, but you lost sodium with it. You lost some salt with it. So salt is probably why you're craving that salty pork chop in the morning, right?
Mhm.
That does sound really good though.
Give it a
Oh
little,
my
there's
gosh.
the tiniest little bit of sprinkle. But I
Salt and
also
pepper
upped
and garlic.
the creatine as well. I started to consume more creatine, and I found that once I started to megadose creatine at 15 to 20 grams, the clarity of mind returned, the brain fog disappeared, and I believe that helped me retain the right fluid, not the wrong
Yeah,
fluids.
I will tell you, when people go into this state of ketosis, everything that you said, I've heard before. Everything that you're describing, like sleep restores. I've had
Mhm.
some people where they hadn't had any more than like 4 hours of sleep in their entire life. They had like total trauma as a kid, and they were so excited because they finally got 7 hours of sleep. They're sleeping through the night because they have that fluid balance now. They're
Mhm.
going to bed not fluid overloaded and then peeing all night and having normal blood pressure by morning. They are now like fluid balance, not having to get up and disrupt their sleep and make it all the way to morning. That is always a big deal, especially some of these guys. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and take some 20 minutes to go pee, right?
Yeah.
Like that, all that stuff gets better, and you should look into that. That would be interesting.
And the anxiety
Prostate
as
problems. What's that?
The anxiety felt in the nervous system.
Oh yeah, because you're not bouncing anymore with your blood sugar.
A lot of people think they're anxious about something or someone, but it's the autonomic nervous system getting stuck in the fight or flight response. So you feel anxious, like I'm worried, and I wake up and I can't get back to sleep, and I'm tossing and turning. Where now I wake up and go, I've got to do that tomorrow, and 30 seconds later I'm back to sleep. Where before I'd go, I've got to do that tomorrow. And then I'd get into the fight or flight response. Okay, now I've got this bill to pay. This bill's coming in. I forgot to write to this client. I didn't do this to-do list. And I'd be up for 30 or 40 minutes trying to process it all. But now it's just a natural thought. Oh, you got to do this. 30 seconds later, back to sleep. And the body goes back into rest and restore. I can feel it when I lay down in the bed. It's like, everything goes loose. Where before it was like a plank laying in bed. So stiff.
Right. So what's cool is what we're talking about is all measurable stuff. You're talking about your sleep quality. I want to use a ring and go, okay, see, when you do this, this, and this, when you get up in the morning and you see the sun, that allows you to time your sleep at the right time. So when you go to sleep, it's on time. When you want to go and you have this, you go through the effort of turning the lights down, the room's nice and cold, right? And you're doing all these extra things because it shows in your metrics. Your data proves it that when you do all these things, you get good sleep scores, you get good REM sleep, you get good deep sleep, you get a good number of hours. But your HRV, this heart rate variability, that anxiety marker improves when you do what you're doing. So you're talking about, okay, well, I do this, and when I do, like, we can give it a number. Imagine now getting up in the morning and going, because my wife and I do this a lot. She'll get up and she'll go, I'm a 65 today. My sleep score is 65. Like, oh, that's not good. Okay, mine's 96. I got good sleep. I can carry the load today. I know that about you. I'm going to cut you some slack today if you. So I understand where they're coming from. And we've had this before, and we go, oh, shoot. Man, we got in a big old argument. Let's check our data. You look over at your data and you go, okay, well, yeah, you know what? My HRV was really low today. I only got 4 hours and 15 minutes. Or it was really hot.
That's the 65 score. You snapped.
What's that?
You snapped and you bit my head off. That's okay. Your sleep score is 65. Yeah. Take one for the team.
Well, doesn't it make you kind of like you have a little bit more context?
Well, there's a reality in it, because if you have poor quality sleep, you can't manage your emotions. And it might even be only a light emotion, but because you haven't had the sleep, you don't have the energy to manage it because you're fatigued. So you got to let people off the hook.
Right.
Like people who are tired and they come to work. They come to work tired. Somebody who stays up late, they come to work tired, and they can't produce the desired results. But that's also something that the company has to consider. Were we emailing you at 9 o'clock last night? Did we call you at 10 o'clock last night?
Yes.
And if so, you got to pay it back the next day. With sleep, even in diabetes. When I was researching sleep, I discovered that people who had chronic sleep deprivation for a week, 5 nights in a row, less than 5 hours, their body went into a state of a pre-diabetic state after 5 nights of bad sleep.
Just in 5 hours, your white cell count is half of what it should be. You can't survive off of it. Well, and this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's not just number of hours, it's what's the quality of your sleep. When we can start attaching like real important numbers, like what you're doing at night is recovery. And if you have to measure recovery, like as an athlete, what are you doing out there? What direction are you going in? Are you progressing? Are you in recovery mode? Like, you don't even know. You just go, I got X number of sleep. And how do you feel today? I feel pretty good. Oh, okay. What does that mean? I don't have any context for, are we going to go
Where's the
hard today or
measurement?
what? Yeah. No, it's
Intuition
there's
serves a purpose, but intuition is not always right. Intuition is not always real.
yeah.
If you can take intuition and combine it with data, that makes a lot more sense.
Well, but think about how much money you can spend trying to figure that out. I'm doing this supplement, I'm doing this supplement, and I got this, and I got this, and I'm eating these salads, and this has this ingredient. Like you're going crazy. You're literally
Mm.
going crazy. To me, it's all about what does your data show? And there's really two metrics that I really hone in. How much does your blood sugar fluctuate, and how recovered is your heart? How anxious are you? What is your sympathetic nervous system tone? How much fight or flight's going on right now? Are you anxious or not? So you talk about employees, I would be like, okay, well, when I put these employees together, man,
the boss walks in
they
the room.
are relaxed. They are relaxed. They're productive. This is the magic team right here because I got data now, right?
It's the A team. Now, Kyle, we better do a part 2 of this, and
Love to.
we'll go down the rabbit hole again. But for those people who want to learn more about what you're doing, where do you want them to visit you?
Visit me at the Unscripted Pharmacist. I have a social media like Instagram, LinkedIn under Kyle Rootsaert. There's my name right there. Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you like. That's I am launching a book soon. I also have a platform that integrates 5 different devices, and some of these are wearable devices like this ring and the CGM, the continuous glucose monitor, together being able to understand your metrics. And I think what's more important than real-time data is I want people to learn. I'm the diabetes educator. I'm the pharmacist that says it's all about your education and your learning, because the patients with the best outcomes were those that are most willing to be educated. They're most willing to ask questions. And those that took to these sensors, I never saw them again. I mean, they came back as friends, but they were no longer patients. It was great.
Well, make sure you visit Kyle's website, join him on LinkedIn, and we'll bring him back for part 2, and we'll go deeper. Kyle, thanks for your time.